As we come on the air this morning, the number of COVID cases here in the U.S. is crossing 5 million. Let's talk about the president's proposals. First of all, Trump wants to replace the House, not a member of the Senate. Is there any way Democrats can...
We're having, I have a crowd less than 15,000 people. It's considered to smoke.
Almost every poll, public poll in Florida and North Carolina taken since the first debate. Is it in there? Is it upstairs? Is it in your study? 9% of interviews about this.
Yeah.
Because resisting that, holding one of the most extraordinary positions in the world. Hi, everyone. Джoρτζ Στεφανόπουλος here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News.
Let me ask you, first of all, is this a strange election?
We've never seen anything like it. There's no question about it. To have an election like this in the middle of a pandemic, I guess it happened back in the early 1900s, but never in modern times have we seen anything like this. And it's been a crazy year for the entire world, but so turbulent here in the United States, beginning with the impeachment of the incumbent president, then the pandemic hits, then the economic collapse, then the improbable, even though he started out as the front runner, it looked like Joe Biden was left for dead after Iowa, New Hampshire, and then he comes back and turns it all around with one win in South Carolina. But one of the strangest things of all is that through it all, the actual race has been unbelievably stable. If you go back to the polls in January, before the president was impeached, before Joe Biden was the official nominee, Joe Biden had about a 7 and 9 point lead in the polls over Donald Trump. Now, 2 weeks from Election Day, Joe Biden has about a 7 and 9 point lead over Donald Trump, despite everything that's happened in this crazy election. One more point on how unusual it is. One of the things we're seeing is a staggering number of people voting early here in the United States. We still have 2 weeks until the final votes are cast on November 3rd, but already over 30 million Americans have voted, which is well over 20% of the entire electorate in 2016. It's unbelievable.
Now, is this going to be like a one-issue election? Do you think COVID is going to be the main issue?
Everything comes under the umbrella of COVID. And which is why just before I got on this phone call with you, President Trump had a remarkable, he called him a press call of journalists where he went off saying people are tired of COVID. People are tired of COVID. People are tired of idiots like Dr. Fauci who I'd fire if he wouldn't get a backlash. And yet it's certainly coloring everything about this election, from the way that the candidates campaign, from the way that people are voting, to the fact that Americans don't believe that President Trump has done a good job in handling the crisis is one of the main factors driving his low disapproval rating right now. So I think it's a one issue election in some ways right now, and at least till now, and the president has 2 more weeks to try and turn this around, but at least until now, it's also a referendum on Donald Trump and the incumbent, rather than what all incumbents try to do and make it a choice between 2 candidates. I mean, whenever an incumbent is trying to win, or someone like an incumbent is trying to win, like George H.W. Bush in 1988 over Michael Dukakis, what you're trying to do is frame the challenger. In that case, Michael Dukakis is an unacceptable choice. And so far, the Trump campaign simply has not been able to do that to Joe Biden. He's proven to be an elusive target.
I remember back in 2016, Hillary was ahead of Trump at this point. Is there any way there could be a replay of 2016 that somehow you guys have missed the story?
Listen, we ask ourselves that questions literally every minute of every day because I think everyone was shocked back in 2016. Here's why I think it's different. Number one, first of all, Biden's national lead, at least, is about 3 times what Hillary's was at this point in the race, 9 points to about 3. Number two, Hillary Clinton was much less well-liked than Joe Biden is. A telling point is if you looked back to 4 years ago and you looked at those voters who say they don't like either Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton, they went by a large margin to Donald Trump. Today, if you look at voters and say they don't really like Joe Biden or Donald Trump, they go by a huge margin to Joe Biden. So I think that's a second difference right now. The third obvious and huge difference is that in some ways, 4 years ago, Donald Trump was the challenger, the outside challenger, and Hillary Clinton was like the incumbent. She was trying to get a third term for the Democrats. Now it's Donald Trump who has to defend a record of 4 years in office. He's the incumbent. He's not the challenger. So that's another difference. Fourth, I could go on. I'll just give a couple more. Another big difference is that the intervening event in the final 2 weeks of the election 4 years ago was James Comey. First of all, coming out and saying he's reopening the investigation into Hillary Clinton 2 weeks out, and then 2 days before the election saying he had closed it. Every analysis I've seen, and I believe it from my own close observation at the time, tells me that that was the difference between winning and losing for Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton 4 years ago. And I think it's pretty well established. So you have that. You know, Donald Trump has a remarkable hold over his voters, his white working class voters. I don't think it's enough to guarantee election, but he's got a remarkable hold over about 40% of the electorate. Can something happen in the final 2 weeks that lets him break it open up into the 46, 47, 48% that he's going to need? It's possible.
But you don't really see any October surprises coming along.
You never say never. In some ways, you could say this has been a year of October surprises. I mean, who would have thought the president of the United States was going to get the pandemic he is said to be fighting 4 weeks before the election? But I think it's, especially with the number of people voting every day, the meaning of any late surprise is lessened a great deal. And that's one more difference from 4 years ago. Aren't really many undecided voters right now, and you don't have a libertarian candidate and a Green Party candidate to suck up votes. They're really not doing it this year.
Now, a lot of people are worried that if the election is close, there might be violence, facets of civil war and so on. Are you worried about that? Sure,
we're keeping an eye on it. Absolutely. Emotions are running high in America right now. There's no question about that. The president is stoking it. He just said it again 10 minutes ago. He said the only way I can lose this election is if it's rigged. And in our polarized environment with our polarized media, a lot of his supporters are going to believe that, and they're going to hear that as a call to take action. So it's something we're all keeping an eye on. Now, what kind of president would Biden be like? I mean, somebody that you've known for a long time. Long time. I've known him for. I actually interviewed for a job with Joe Biden right after the Dukakis campaign in 1988. I think he'd be a stabilizing force, likely. I mean, it's clearly that's the pitch he's making to the American people right now, that he'll calm things down. And you could really see that in the town meetings that I held with him last Thursday night, and Trump was on NBC with Savannah Guthrie. They had such a striking contrast in demeanor, in experience, in temperament, and I think what he's going to try to do is obviously advance a democratic agenda, but also just sort of culturally take the temperature down in the United States and make a real determined effort to try to heal what has become a deeply divided society. And finally, if you had to bet now, you think there will be a sort of a comfortable victory by Biden, or a landslide, or what? That's where I'm still snake bit by 4 years ago as well. I'd freely admit that 2 weeks out from 4 years ago, I would not have predicted that Donald Trump would have won. The Nate Silver from 538, his forecast, really the lead statistical analyst of elections in the United States, now says that Biden has about an 88% chance of winning, which is, so Trump has a 12% chance. That's not nothing. But within that, he now says that the chance of a Biden landslide is now approaching, it's above 35%, approaching 40%. So I think that there's a greater chance now of a clear, comfortable victory than anything we saw back in 2016. And right now, at least, appears to be growing every day for Joe Biden. Any idea what Trump would do if he loses? Would he resign and not wait for inauguration? Or I mean, he's throwing out all kinds of ideas, but all kinds of ideas. I don't know the answer to that. I'll just throw out one final observation. Probably within the next day or two, we'll find out if his tax records will have to be turned over to the Manhattan district attorney. I think if he loses, he is facing a significant legal predicament, both from the Manhattan district attorney, the New York attorney general, possibly even federal investigations. I think that's what people should be keeping an eye on.